Hello everyone, I am Avinash Choudhary and today I am going to share my opinion on the two major problems which India is facing for the last 3 or 4 decades. The first problem is of Jammu and Kashmir and the second problem is of Naxalism. First, I will talk about the problem of Jammu and Kashmir. Various options or solutions have been proposed by the government officials, bureaucrats and some other intellectuals to solve both of these problems. Let's pick up one of them. Some officials or some intellectuals have said that army should be used against Naxalites, or army should be used, though it is being used in Jammu and Kashmir to tackle the civil uprising or the insurgency or the protests which are happening in Jammu and Kashmir. Now let's analyze how correct it is to use army against these kind of problems. In my opinion, it is not good to use army because whenever there is a civilian uprising, now I am especially talking about the problem of Jammu and Kashmir and the protests which are happening there. Whenever there is a problem or a civilian protests, and when the government sends the army to tackle such situations, a vicious cycle of violence starts. So let's go in more detail that how this vicious cycle starts. So one hand, there are stone pelters in Jammu and Kashmir. They are pelting stones on the security forces. On the opposite side, there is army, there is police which is tackling these protests. So because of army being involved in tackling such protests, the civil casualty or the deaths of some innocent people increases. So that again makes the people or the public of Jammu and Kashmir angry. So they again protest against those deaths and again army tackles them, and hence in this process the civil casualty keeps on increasing and it becomes a vicious cycle of violence. And then it stops when there is a breaking point of civil casualties. But let me remind you that the civil society stops for a certain period of time. The cycle it can resume again after a period of time, because the anger or the frustration among the public never stops. They always want to take revenge of those innocent deaths. And the second thing is that the entire human software of army or police or CRPF is such that it is not, these security forces are not well trained to deal with civil uprising or civil protests. Army is especially not trained to deal with civil protests, and our police, which still is governed by the 1861 law, which was implemented to serve the Britishers. So the police force in India serves the people according to a law which was made to serve the Britishers, so it only serves the privileged people. To unprivileged, it is an oppressing force. It is not a public service. So that's why using police and using security forces, other security forces, especially army, is wrong while dealing with such situations. Now, talking about other things, I will also like to tell you about two laws which have been implemented in Jammu and Kashmir for the last 2 or 3 decades. The first is People's Safety Act, which has been there in Jammu and Kashmir for the last 32 years, which lets police to put everyone behind bars just on the basis of suspicion that the person can possess a threat to the peace of the state. And other such law is the Armed Forces Special Power Act, which lets even a non-commissioned officer to shoot everyone, again on the basis that the one can be a terrorist, or the one can possess a danger to the peace of the state. And I am not against the strict laws. Some of you may say that strict laws are necessary to tackle the situations in Jammu and Kashmir, but let me remind you, our police and army and these security forces, they are not responsible enough to deal with such laws. Now, talking about, some people say that there would be hardly any solutions of problems like Jammu and Kashmir and problems like Naxalism. But I think, and I believe it, that do not think for the things in short term. I would like to tell you that it took India almost 100 years to get independence. And I am certainly not talking about independence when I talk about Jammu and Kashmir and when I talk about Naxalite affected regions. I am talking about a solution which will help both the Kashmiris and the Naxalite affected region people. So there will be a solution. If India got independence in 100 years, there will be also a solution for Jammu and Kashmir and for Naxalite affected areas, and by solution I do not mean independence. So they have only taken 3 or 4 decades maximum. So think for a solution in 100 years term, because the power of collective bargaining of Jammu and Kashmir people and of Naxalite affected areas people is less than what India had when it got independence. So they will take certainly more time, but I believe in longer run there will be drastic improvements in the situations. Let's hope for the best, because hope is a good thing to do.